Hi, my name's Andrew Litchfield. My ID number is lit23238964, and this is my proposal pitch. My concept is a fantasy-style D&D tavern, but will be made in a low poly style. The environment will be used in the future for a role-play style game. My dream job is to be in the game design industry, is to be a games artist. In my last projects, my 3D art has been some of my best work, and I also enjoy it the most, which is why I feel like this would be the best option for my FMP. For my planning, I plan to get all my research done by the start of Easter break. I also plan to get most of my planning done during Easter break. After Easter break, I plan to use the feedback I get from my peers to create my final designs and then create my final assets at the end. For my research, I will be looking into different media products using a similar style. One of the things I'll be looking at is the Green Dragon Inn from Lord of the Rings. The theories I'll be looking at is MDA, the Magic Circle, and Enigma Code. For my evaluation, I plan to evaluate my work in a written style, as I lose track often when I'm being on recording or any kind like video or audio. I believe that's it, yeah.
Okay, so a couple of questions, Andrew. Can you give me a sense of the scale of the environment?
I'm going to start off as like a nook, like I did, I believe, last year, and just so I can make sure I'm not overdoing myself. And then once I've done that, I'll use the same assets in a different style or similar assets I can make to expand it into a full room. So I'll basically be making it corner by corner depending on how much time I have.
Okay, and can you explain to me which media theories you intend to either adhere to or possibly like contest as part of this project?
Some of the theories I will be looking into for researching this product is MDA for mechanics and dynamics that will be used when it turns into a game in the future. I'd also be looking at Enigma Code to create some kind of mysteries to make the players wonder what happened at the place. And I'd also use, I forgot the other one I said. I'd also use Magic Circle theory to create, it is off the top of my head. I can't remember what Magic Circle is off the top of my head at the moment. Had it in there. I didn't. I'd also use the Magic Circle. I'll look into the Magic Circle theory as well. Okay.
I think the idea is sound, Andrew. I think you've discussed it and you've set a sensible scale for yourself. I think the theming of it is strong. I think when it comes to the MDA theory, I think it's quite critical that you ensure that you've got a sensible, I know you're saying about making this like an RPG game.
Yeah.
How you can follow appropriate conventions of an RPG game, making that environment into a playable space.
I plan on having it so like, the place is going to be like a hub for like the players to hang out before going out into the actual realm where the game happens itself.
So normally,
there's going to be like NPCs around, like stores and stuff like that there.
So yeah, well normally in that case then there'll be some kind of like element where you can buy things, like a shop kind of mechanic could be implemented, not exactly designed, but the space for that is there. Oftentimes in these types of environments in RPG games, there's some kind of like mini game system happening, whether that's like a card game or some other kind of turn-based game going on in there. So that could be.
I should also include that in my research as well.
But even things like oftentimes taverns within levels for, in RPG kind of open world game service as a point where you can find missions to do. Whether that's discussing it with NPCs, which I would advise you for your idea to not do. I would instead suggest something closer to say what happens in games like The Witcher 3, where there's some kind of notice board system where jobs...
Where it'd be something you can interact with.
Exactly right, but then you don't need to create the NPCs to be, oh, this is the NPC.
Or a space for them, I can just create
it could be
an individual asset.
Absolutely right, and I think that would work well. Okay, so I'm happy to greenlight the idea. I think it would work well, especially if you're saying that you want to go into more environment art. I think a couple of strategies that I would implement if I was you, I would start to grey box out the general area.
That's one of the things I plan on doing once after the Easter break, once I've got an idea of my level plans and all of that lot made.
Okay.
I will use that and use the feedback from my peers to create the final one.
Yeah.
And then create a grey box style of that, just using simple shapes.
The other thing I would suggest is producing what's called producing a decent asset list. You'd often find that with a tavern style environment that you'd want some kind of central focus point, whether that's the bar itself or some kind of elevation of something else, whether that's like a mini game mechanic, maybe an open fire in the middle, something along those lines. But then when it comes to your asset list, you want to start looking intelligently at assets that you can make one of and then duplicate. So for instance,
like
stools, tables, chairs, glasses, tankards, those types.
I've actually got a, I got it as a gift at someone's wedding when I was part of it. It's like an old style metal beer mug.
So that might be
I
something.
can use that. I was thinking we can use that as recon photos.
I think that makes a lot of sense to maybe model something like that.
I've also got a lot of pubs near me.
One thing I'd encourage you as well is when it comes to your concept art, you only really want to push the art on concepting things that don't exist in reality. Now you're saying this is going to be like a low poly art style, so things might
or somewhat like it. It's not going to be massive
but
polys.
from that you just be selective as to what you put forward as concept art. You don't need to conceptualise, say, chairs and tables, because you might be better off actually looking at an image like the one you have there as reference. But maybe the notice
or
board,
windows, or like the bollards.
anything that's coming from a more creative standpoint should be concept. I don't want to open up a portfolio and
see a bunch of chairs.
Exactly right. Okay, well, I'm happy to go with it. I do think we need to see how the magic circle is going to apply.
I would have explained it, but I forgot what it means off the top of my head under pressure.
To me doesn't suggest it's a great theory to apply. I would actually push more so into something like a narrative theory. Because that gives you an opportunity to explore lore, and a lot of, like, you know, if you're doing like a fantasy RPG, you mentioned Lords of the Rings, well, having some semblance of a backstory, how old is this place, what happened to it, who is the current owners of it, where does it stand in kind of like the good versus bad of the RPG fantasy world, where is it in that, who are the type of people that frequent it, is it more aligned with, say, medieval knights versus more of a clan of people that might have more like a Viking aesthetic, and all of those things would influence how the pub is. Maybe even showcasing that there was a bar fight in there recently, and maybe some
broken glass,
there's broken glass, or maybe something stuck into the wall, or you know, an area's been chipped. Maybe there could even be like a dried blood stain on the floor next to a bucket of water as someone's tried to scrub it out. Those little details make environmental storytelling a showcase, which is a really strong thing to be putting forward to an employer, or as part of a
I can experiment doing things like that with like Mudbox and 3D Coat.
But it starts with the story, and therefore then it becomes worthwhile exploring a narrative-based theory.
Yeah.
Yeah? Okay.